Hello and welcome to another episode of the Two Raccoons in a Trench Coat podcast. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Play some smooth jazz in the other side of your background while I say this close to the microphone. I am your co host for this episode, some guy with a microphone keeping you company all night long, and joined as always by the wonderful host.
Who doesn't know what ASMR is. I'm some guy with a hat. How are you all doing tonight, today, this evening, morning, whenever it is you're listening to us? Thank you for checking in. We've got another episode here where I'm probably going to go on a little bit of a monologue for a bit of time. Nowhere near as.
Oh, so just like I did last week.
No, I mean, okay. Let's get into last week because I. Look, the show never makes mistakes. However, I think we made one last week. We forgot to put the call out to see if anyone wanted to discuss last week's topic with us. So we have one of our friends who would have been a great guest, and we just slipped our minds. So we apologize to you, and only you. This is the only time we will be apologizing for anything in our lives. So please feel special about that. Now, getting into this week,
Mm-hmm.
you have not seen what we are discussing this week. Is that correct?
I have not. I have seen clips off social media. I have seen memes. I have seen a poster that I'm pretty sure is related to the show. But other than that, no.
Okay. So it would probably be a great thing to jump into some trivia. All right. You're aware of how trivia works. Hmm?
Audience, I was not aware there was trivia.
How are you not? We do trivia every week, except for last week when you didn't do it.
Because you hadn't seen any of the films or franchise material, and I didn't want to be a dick. You know
Well,
what? I'm going to get 5 for 5. Let's go.
5 for 5. Okay. You know how trivia works. 5 questions, 60 seconds, and your time starts after I ask the first question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not ready, so we're going to start right now. The conspiracy that states that a UFO crash landed on Earth in 1947 happened in which U.S. city?
That'd be Roswell, New Mexico.
What is Agent Mulder's first name?
Dan.
During her abduction, what is implanted in the back of Agent Scully's neck?
That would be a microchip.
The opening theme for this show is parodied in the trailer for which Scooby Doo movie?
Scooby Doo and the Alien Invasion.
What phrase is shown at the end of almost all of the opening title sequences of X Files?
I want to believe.
Time. Okay, let me finish writing down your answers. Give me 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do you feel like you did?
I think I got like 3 out of 5.
You I want to be honest, I'm very impressed with you not having seen any official episode. You did pretty well. All right. Question number 1. The conspiracy that states that a UFO crash landed on Earth in 1947 happened in which US city? You are correct. Roswell, New Mexico is where that happened, and that kind of launched a whole network of conspiracies with aliens and all that stuff. Question 2. What is Agent Mulder's first name? You said Dan. His first name is Fox, which is really weird. That's why I wanted to make it a
Ooh.
trivia question.
Who names a kid Fox?
Apparently, Mr. and Miss Mulder. Question 3. During her abduction, what is implanted in the back of Agent Scully's neck? You said a microchip. That's correct.
Hey.
How do you know that?
So here's the thing. When you're abducted, 2 things happen to you. Either you get microchipped or you get probed. And because you said neck, I knew it wasn't a probe.
Nice. All right, question 4. The opening theme for this show is parodied in the trailer for which Scooby Doo movie? You said Scooby Doo and the Alien Invasion. The answer is Scooby Doo and the Alien Invaders, but I'll give it to you. It's close enough. I knew what you were talking about. Question 5. You're right now 3 for 4. What
Mm-hmm.
phrase is shown at the end of almost all the opening title sequences of X Files? You said I want to believe. You are so close. And this
Oh.
question, that's going to be the answer to a question that we do on the next time we talk about this, because we're only talking about
Mm-hmm.
the first 5 seasons in the movie. That phrase is on Mulder's UFO poster in his office.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The phrase at the end of the title sequence is "The truth is out there."
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
3 for 5. Great effort. How do you feel about this?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Scooby Doo reference, really came in clutch there. The fact that I was in the US military and I had to be briefed on the whole thing about Area 51 and the Roswell conspiracies really helped me out in that category. So life experience there. And then for microchip again, it was either in the back of the neck or it was somewhere lower, and it wasn't lower, so it had to be microchips.
So,
Deductive reasoning.
are you had to be briefed on it? Are you like just like, hey, this is a conspiracy that's not true, or like, are you able to talk about this, or is this part of your NDA?
No, long story short, when you go to the military, they're like, "Hey, remember a long time ago? Well, not that long ago, honestly, I'm not that old, but it's like people are like, we're gonna storm Area 51 and find the truth."
Yeah.
Yeah. So the government has a plan for if that happens, and everybody gets briefed. When
No.
it was a meme, they had safety meetings about it.
Yeah, I saw memes about the safety meetings about the memes. Ah,
So Area 51, it's considered a government like controlled facility, and you get a lot. Military branches get a lot of briefing in a lot of places. Whether you're stationed out there or not, you get there. I don't know anything more than anybody else listening to this podcast does. I just know that if someone crosses the fence, what my job was, which was nothing, because I was going to be on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic. My job was going to be, did you hear about the guy who got in Area 51? Shame. Anyway, dolphins.
all right. Today we are talking about the X Files, specifically the first 5 seasons and the first movie. Now, can you briefly explain what you understand the main idea of the show to be?
So, from what I've gathered from memes and social media stuff that's poorly edited on like TikTok and YouTube, um, it seems to be, is it Mulder and Scully? Is that the two?
Correct.
Scully's the other person. Okay. So it's a dude and a chick, and they work for the government,
Mm-hmm.
and their job is to like hunt down aliens, and either they're supposed to like capture them or murder them. However, that doesn't usually happen, and instead there's a wider conspiracy that it's kind of like the end goal that they both are kind of chasing, but it kind of becomes a subplot.
Yeah, so you're about half right. Um,
Cool.
yeah, so Mulder and
Passing grade in
Scully.
Europe.
Mulder and Scully are FBI agents assigned to the X Files, and what the X Files are unsolved cases with like unexplainable phenomena in them. And the gist of the show, the structure is it's basically a monster of the week setup for most of it. You have 2 different kinds of episodes. One, like the regular episode, is like I said, monster of the week, where they go state to state, solving case to case, whatever it may be, like werewolves, vampires, whatnot. Then you have the what the show creators call mythology episodes, which is more like, all right, it's time to lock in its main story time. To where if you cut out all of the procedural episodes, you're stuck with, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the episodes being these mythology main plot episodes of the show that follow like the conspiracy of the aliens and all that stuff. So getting into it a little bit, Mulder is at the start of the show solo on the X Files, and he's interested in it because his sister was abducted when they were very young, and he's chasing this, trying to find answers for it along the way, while looking into other these unexplained phenomena. He gets the nickname Spooky from other people in the bureau, until Scully, who is a doctor in the FBI, is assigned to the X Files in order to discredit them, because I guess the government isn't a big fan of these wacky explanations for all of these cases. But
Mhm.
eventually, they end up uncovering a whole ton of conspiracy going on with this shadow group in the government, covering up the existence of aliens and all this stuff. Um, I'll go into the main plot. That's a decent chunk on another document that I have. Um, After I kind of go over like the characters and their dynamics in order to like follow the plot easier. Um, Talked about Mulder, Scully. Scully's really like science driven. You have a lost like man of science, man of faith dynamic going on here, um, where they're very much set in their ways, but their dynamic together it clashes often, but it's really well. They work really well together, even though they're both on like different sides of the answer here. Um, it's really fun to see. There's also like they have a will they won't they dynamic as well, which is a fun part of the show. Like, and I don't even know where I want them to end up because they work excellent together as really great friends. But there are also tons of parts where they're like not necessarily flirting with each other, but they have really good chemistry. So wherever they end up, I don't think it's going to be bad, but it's like a not a main plot point, but it's definitely something on the character development side where it's always interesting to see like how do you want to look into what this conversation was, or why are those actions like, can you look at it differently based on what you're trying to get out of it. You have assistant director of the FBI, their department, Skinner. He's kind of shifty at first. You don't really know whose side he's on. But early on, in I think season one, he opens up to Mulder about some out of body experience he had while he was in Nam. So that kind of opens the gateway to being like, all right, maybe he's an ally. I think in the midpoint of season two, they're at odds with each other. Like they literally have their guns drawn on each other because of a miscommunication. But then eventually, as the show goes on, it's shown more and more that he is just like an ally to them. So that's nice to see. You have three
Okay.
characters. Sorry.
No, no, I'm following along with the lore. I'm letting you know I'm paying attention.
Okay. You have a group of three characters known as the Lone Gunmen, who are Mulder's friends, who run like a conspiracy magazine or paper or articles or something like that. Um, they don't show up too often, but it's always a treat when they do because it's usually they have like 2 minutes of screen time. There's this group of three wacky characters who, yeah, they help out Scully and Mulder where they can, usually on the more shady end of things. And then the last character I want to talk about now is the cigarette smoking man, or the cancer man, or the smoking man, or Black Lung. We don't know his name, and none of the other characters know his name either. But this is the main antagonist of the show, and he's part of the like dark shadow conspiracy section of the government, um, that is thwarting Mulder and Scully's uh, developments and investigations at every turn. We, for the most part, we don't get any character development for him for the first 3 or 4 seasons. Um, but this guy probably smokes at least 2 packs a day, so that's why he's known as the Smoky Man. I don't think there's a single shot in the entire show thus far where he is either where he's not either just finished smoking, about to smoke, or currently smoking. Like he's always fucking smoking. Um, how he survived this far or this long is a mystery, an X file in and of itself, if you will. All right, those are the main
Mhm.
players. Now, any questions, any comments before we get into the main gist of the mythology of the show?
So, have you seen Supernatural?
I have not.
I was gonna say, how would you compare it to Supernatural? But you haven't seen Supernatural, so eventually we're gonna have a Supernatural episode, and oh boy, do I have a guest for us.
My understanding of Supernatural is it's kind of the same like procedural monster of the week, but the two main characters are also have supernatural powers.
Um, so season one of Supernatural is, hey, we're two brothers fighting monsters and saving the day, and then season two plus is still that, and then it was supposed to end at season four, and then they didn't.
And they're like what 11 seasons?
They had like 11 or 12. I don't know. The CW really ran with it for a long time, and the original like creator of the story was like, no. Season four, it ends because one of them is in hell and the other one is traumatized. We're done. That's the end of the story. It's not a happy ending because no hunters get a happy ending, and it. I'm gonna derail this. So let's go to the main anthology here. Let's go to the cosmology here.
All right. So, season 1 there's not a whole ton of mythology episodes in season 1. I think it's literally just the first and final episode. Um, but throughout, Mulder gets these tidbits of information, these tips from a confident from an informant from within the Shadow Conspiracy Agency. He's known as, I'm not kidding, he's referred to as Deep Throat in the show. Um, he's eventually killed off at the end.
Why?
I don't know. They have really like there's Deep Throat, there's the cigarette smoking man. They just weird. They name people weird things. Um, he's killed off at the end of season 1 when Scully, for the first time, actually sees what is an alien fetus um, in this government facility. It's a whole plot point, but it's funny because the entirety of season 1, um, Scully is coincidentally absent for when Mulder finds the supernatural um, answer to the plot of the episode, and then she shows up after it disappears, and she's like, "That Mulder, that can't be true." And he's like, "Well, don't know what to tell you. It was right here." But the end of season 1 is the first time where she actually sees something for her in her own eyes. But the X Files are shut down at the end of the first season because of a little behind the scenes info. Um, Gillian Anderson, who plays Scully, became pregnant. So the writers had to find a way to split up Scully and Mulder for the beginning of season 2 so that she could do that. So the X Files are shut down, and the first few episodes of season 2, they're separated. Um, they do share screen time together, but it's very clear that there were probably some scheduling issues, which is what I thought was going on when I first watched it. I didn't know that she was. That's why they had to rewrite it. Um, Mulder ends up getting assigned a new partner named Krychek. Um, he ends up being an agent working for Black Lung in that government conspiracy, um, and he disappears. After that, the X Files are reopened, and Mulder gets a new informant, or a new informant comes to Mulder. He's known as X. I should say a lot of this stuff that I'm going over, um, super condensed. Um, recap here, and a lot a lot of this is in the correct timeline order, but maybe like 7% of it, especially when it comes to Krychek's character, uh, could be misplaced here and there. There's so much to go over. Okay, where was I? Get new informant. Scully is then abducted around the middle of season 2. Um, so Mulder's on his own for a couple episodes, and eventually, after Mulder confronts the cigarette smoking man, Scully is miraculously returned to them. She doesn't have any memory, um, but she does notice she has an implant in the back of her neck. Mulder's sister also shows up randomly out of the blue, followed by an alien bounty hunter. Now, so far, we know one main alien race in the show, and they can shift their how do I want to word it? Shapeshift is not exactly right. They can take on the appearance of other people, I guess. Um, but it turns out that Mulder's sister isn't his sister. This is just like an alien clone that they have of her. So the whole sister plot point is something I thought they would get to down the road as like a major thing. But whenever it shows up, it's always not treated as dramatically as I was expecting. And it also never turns out to be her so far. So that's just something that I guess you have to accept, that the sister isn't important at this point. Even though she is, and it drives the main point of those episodes, but in the grand scheme of things, it just feels like just a cheap plot point. Just to throw in like, hey, remember her? She's a character, she exists. Um, but the alien bounty hunter kills the clones of the sister and those aliens. Eventually, Krychek pops back up and he kills Scully's sister in an attempt to kill Scully and Mulder's father as well, because Mulder's dad worked with the cigarette smoking man in the past. And it's kind of implied that the cigarette smoking man is Samantha's father, who's Samantha is Mulder's sister. I don't know if I mentioned that. And maybe also Mulder himself, but it's always danced around, and it was only brought up in a handful of episodes in the later, like, season 4 and 5 range, so I'm not sure what direction they're going with that yet. But at the end of season 2, they find evidence of alien bodies in an old train car buried in like either New Mexico or Nevada or Arizona, somewhere in the desert. This old train car is buried, and Mulder finds it and finds evidence of alien bodies that were used in testing vaccines for, like, I think maybe polio or something like that. And that kind of starts the whole through line of vaccines. Either the government create a conspiracy of aliens to kidnap humans and testing vaccines, or it's actually the government kidnapping aliens and testing vaccines. There's a lot of depth in this, and this plot point is only drip fed to us in a handful of mythology episodes. Not every episode in this deals with that subplot. But
So,
yes,
in your experience, do you believe this episode is proving the line in the song "Welcome to the Internet" when the poet reads the line, "Obama sent the immigrants to vaccinate your kids"? Is this kind of proving that theory for us?
well, I didn't know we needed proof for that. I thought everyone should have taken that as fact from there. But yeah, I guess
Right. I mean, it's gospel, but those who don't believe.
Yeah, for the non-believers, for all you Scullys out there, this episode 100% proves that.
I love God. Every Scully fan now being called a far right wing nut job.
I didn't get that from the from the analysis. All right. eventually, the cigarette smoking man torches the train car with Mulder in it. Somehow he gets away. Um, and we move on to season 3. Krychek shows up again with in the storyline that introduces the black goo, which is an alien substance that is transferred from person to person and it controls them as a host. When it transfers out of them to a new host, that previous person dies. Um, Krychek, I think at this point, is on the run because he had information that was like damning to the organization. So they tried to IRA car bomb him, but he gets away. So now he's kind of teamed up with Mulder. Not really. No, not really, because he killed Mulder's dad. So he's still pissed about that. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Um, so eventually, Krychek gets infected with the black goo, and there's a thread some sort of plot that happens in a missile silo. So they go there. Scully and Mulder get away. Um, Krychek ends up getting trapped in a section of the missile silo, um, and it's like abandoned. So no one's coming to help him. But the last few shots we see of him kneeling over like an alien warhead or an alien artifact, and the black goo goes out of him and seeps into the artifact. So that should mean that he's dead. And that's the last we see of him. At the end of season 3, oh, I didn't even mention that he gets. Did I mention that he gets a new informant named X, or referred to as? Okay.
I believe we've talked about X.
Okay.
At least I know who X is, so it's got to be from here.
Okay. Yeah, they have like I don't even think he's referred to as mentioned as X in the show, but like from behind the scenes, that's what they call him as. That's what they know him as. Mulder and X's relationship is like really rocky. They never really seem to be on the same page. Their interests just align somewhat at pivotal points. Um, but eventually, he is killed at the end of season 3, and then Laurie Holden, who plays Andrea in The Walking Dead, guest stars as the new informant from now on. So it's really detrimental to your health to be known as an informant for Mulder on this show.
Clearly.
Um, Scully ends up developing cancer from removing the implant from her abduction, and that starts this season long ordeal with her. Getting on to the end of season 4. Now, the end of season 4 and the first 2 episodes of season 5 are probably some of my favorite episodes just because of a what if scenario that I have. But getting into the finale of season 4, it starts with Scully identifying a body in Mulder's apartment for the police. And it's really vague. She's like, yep, that's him. And then it flashes back to earlier when a whistleblower talked to Scully and Mulder and ends up convincing Mulder that everything is a conspiracy set up by the government to make people believe that aliens are real. So he's really questioning his convictions and like has the past like 20 years of his life meant nothing. And then at the end of the episode, it's kind of split. So like one section with Mulder takes place at night. The other section with Scully takes place in the morning after that initial scene of the episode. Mulder's in his apartment crying, and he loads his gun. The next morning, Scully gives her report to a board that Mulder killed himself that morning. And that's the end of season 4.
Oh.
And the beginning of season 5, the episodes, it's a 2-parter. So it's a 3-episode arc. The episodes are titled Redux 1 and Redux 2. When I saw that, I was really thinking that they initially set it up to be like it's probably not Mulder's body in the apartment because you don't see it, and Scully doesn't say it's set up like that stereotypical bait and switch. But part of me is like, David Duchovny's Duchovny's acting in that final scene was excellent. Like I fully believe that Mulder is shattered. Um, and if they wanted to end the show like that, if they weren't sure they were going to get renewed, that's a hell of a way to go out. But with the title being Redux, I'm thinking before I see the episode, I'm like, what if this is where they introduce time travel in a sense to where like yes, Mulder actually did end up doing that, but then somehow they go back and it's like redoes time or whatever. Um, it's not. It doesn't end up happening, but it's a fun theory that I have, and I still like to think about like a what if scenario in that way.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
anyway, getting into the episodes themselves, it opens with a brief recap of the previous episode, and it picks up right where Mulder is about. Like he's putting the gun up. He's about to do it, and then he stops, notices something off, and he goes, I think, upstairs and notices someone is spying on him. So he kills them, and he stages his body to fake his own death. So then Scully covers for him, and that's why she was in the boardroom telling that board that Mulder was dead, so he could do his own investigation. But then Scully ends up in the hospital because of the cancer. Mulder ends up finding the whistleblower and infiltrates a government building to end up getting the cure for Scully's cancer, which is just a microchip. So I think what gave Scully the cancer in the first place was her taking the chip out from her abduction.
Right.
And the
So putting
microchip,
one back in cures it.
yeah, which is so far what is we're supposed to believe, I think. Skinner is framed as the mastermind of the entire conspiracy, and Scully 100% believes it. Mulder's still a bit on the fence, but he's then in a meeting with the person who assigned Scully to the X Files in the first place, in the first episode, and is like, "Yep, all you have to do is name Skinner as the informant or whatever, and we have enough evidence to put him away." Uh, but in the accusation scene, Mulder names that person who was just talking to him. It's funny because he's only in the first episode and these episodes right here, so you know something's up. Like, there's no reason for him to be in this episode right now unless he is the guy. So it turns out he's correct. Mulder accuses the guy. I don't know his name, so I'm going to call him the guy. Um, and the government organization, the shady one, kills him. But they also kill the smoking man because he's getting a bit too fond of Mulder because he's always like, no, we can't kill Mulder because that'll make him a martyr and all that stuff. So Black Lung is shot. Jumping to like the middle and end of season 5, uh, Agent Spender, Agent Spender is introduced when his mom, who has also been abducted before, uh, talks with Scully. This mom is played by Veronica Cartwright, who plays Lambert in Alien. Um, anyway, her and Scully form a bit of a friendship, so they go to a UFO site where a ton of other past abductees show up. But a lot of those people are then burned to death by alien rebels. So this is where we are introduced to another subsection of aliens. We have the regular aliens that it is turned out that the government is working with or against. It's really fuzzy because the regular aliens, the government knows they're abducting people. They help them abduct people. Um, but there's also going to be like genetic warfare, it sounds like. So part of their I skipped over a whole thing with Mulder and Krychek from season 4. Krychek's alive somehow. Um, they end up in Tunguska in Russia and get tested on about to try and form a vaccine against the black goo. Um, they both escape. Krychek, I guess, goes back to work with the government for some reason. Um, but that's where this whole black goo thing is starting to pick up starting to pick up traction where the government's trying to make a vaccine in time before some big end of the world event that the main aliens are planning. But then there's also these alien rebels who are trying to stop both the government and the regular aliens. So it's really unclear as to why the government doesn't work with the rebels. I I don't know if I'm just missing something or if it just isn't clear yet. Um, but Veronica Cartwright gets abducted, and this is the point in which Scully starts to really believe that there's something else out there. She's still not 100%, like, she's still very much like there has to be a scientific explanation, but she's not always shutting down Mulder at this point. The season ends when Black Lung reveals to Agent Spender that he's his father, and he burns down the X Files. He burns down Mulder and Scully's office, and the X Files is closed yet again. Now we have the movie, which is retroactively retitled as X Files Fight the Future. It's got aliens in it, and yeah, like it's funny because um, it really does just feel like a 3 episode arc condensed into a film, which is fine. And it's good. I enjoyed it, but nothing super like we already know a ton of stuff. Like it has this whole thing with bees being the conduit for the alien genetic plague. We already knew that. We already knew a ton of other stuff. The only thing it gave us confirmation of, I think, is that um, we actually see the aliens clearly. Scully gets abducted yet again. She really is like the Daphne of Scooby Doo, where it's not every episode, but a decent amount of the mythology episodes, she is like in trouble, which is kind of unfortunate. Um, but yeah, the movie happens. X Files is officially reopened at the end of it, and that's where I will stop in my monologue about the main story right now. Any
Mm-hmm.
questions so far? I know we just
So far,
railroaded through 5 seasons and a movie of plot.
honestly, so far so cohesive. I do like the subtext that is that aliens are destroying America. That part's clear. I also enjoy the anti-communist sentiment of there not being free healthcare for Scully, which is good. Um, yeah, I think honestly, so far, I feel like this is a very good show. I'm excited to hear about the next couple seasons. Um, if you had to put it on a scale, 1 being you'd never watch it again, 10 being you'd rewatch at the drop of a hat, where do you put this series? Speaking of seasons 1 through 5.
It's definitely a 10 for a couple of reasons. One, I was scrolling through the episode list trying to like because I also have like some standout like standalone episodes I'll briefly touch on just to give you like a compare and contrast of um, mythology episodes versus like regular procedural episodes. And there are a lot of them where I'm reading through the synopsis and I'm like, yeah, I vaguely remember that. And I don't know if it's because I binged it, where I'm not remembering every detail. Um, but you can also pick out just the mythology episodes to watch if you don't want to put in these hundreds of episodes time commitment. Um, that and the content, I mean, it's great. There hasn't been a show since Lost that I fell in love with so fast. And that is saying something. If you know me, you know Lost is my absolute favorite show of all time, and X Files is up there with it. A couple standalones I mentioned that I want to touch on. In season 1, you have Squeeze in the one of the first few episodes, which follows this guy who can, again, not shape shift. Well, yeah, I guess so. Like he can fit into really tight places, and he doesn't just murder people. He like takes them back to a cocoon to digest them, because he's this weird creature thing. Um, that was like the first like really creepy episode, and then it's followed up on again in at the end of season 1 with his follow up, where he gets let out of prison for good behavior or something, and then he's like, "Oh, here I go killing again," and gets right back to it. Um, Season 2 has the episode named Three, which is like it's a Mulder standalone episode from when Gillian Anderson was taking a break. He finds these 3 groups of vampires or vampire adjacent things. Mulder hooks up with one of them, and then at the end, she kills one of her accomplices and then lights the house she's in on fire. Because I guess that's what you do if you're a vampire. Home, season 4, is the only episode that's banned. It follows a family of Texas Chainsaw Massacre esque people, like a lot of
Mhm.
inbreeding there, and it's not.
Like Wrong Turn.
Yeah, yeah. It is a bit dark. Yeah, it is really dark, I guess. Um, but it's not overly graphic, anything worse than what a regular episode would be. So it's funny that that's the episode that is the banned one, but um, still a good episode. Small Potatoes is, I think, again at the end of season 4, and it has one of the most inadvertently funniest scenes I've ever seen. The episode follows this guy who can, again, like the regular aliens, but he's not a regular alien. He can like take on the identity of anyone else. So he does that to take on the identity of some husbands and sleep with their wives. Um, he ends up locking Mulder in some closet, and he goes and impersonates Mulder, and it's really some really funny scenes. You can see of David acting as another guy who's trying to pretend to be Mulder. It's really funny. And at the end, the guy takes a bottle of wine to Scully's apartment to try and seduce her. Um, it really lends into the will they won't they aspect of their relationship. But then, right as fake Mulder's about to kiss Scully, real Mulder barges into the apartment. They both look at him like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then the fake Mulder shifts back to what he regularly looks like and just gives a shrug, like, "Well, you got me. Darn."
Damn.
uh, in season 5, you have a couple really good episodes. Like Postmodern Prometheus is an homage to Frankenstein, um, but its ending I don't think is canon because the entire episode's in black and white, and you have this deformed guy. What does it call it when you have bugs and you have to nuke them in the house?
Flea Bomb?
No, like on a larger scale.
Fumigate.
Yes. So this deformed guy like fumigates houses with people inside them, and he like dances around. But then his grandfather, who's like a mad scientist, and so is his regular father, who like hates him. It's a weird dynamic. Watch the episode; it's really weird. Um, is I think assaulting the people while he's in the house. That part's not clear. So while this guy should be going to jail, um, Cher gives a concert, so they all go there and have this concert with Cher, and then they dance around at the end. It's a really weird ending, and I don't think it's canon because I mean, just take him to jail. Why are you giving this guy a concert? Um, and the last episode I'll touch on is Bad Blood, which is another vampire episode. It's a really funny episode, where for most of it you have Mulder and Scully giving their accounts of what happened to each other. And you kind of see the events happen twice, but each time they're telling it, details are different. Like um, when Scully's telling her story, the police officer's like really handsome and nice, but and like they're kind of flirting with each other. But when Mulder's telling the story, the police officer has like buck teeth and has this hick ass accent. um, the episode opens with Mulder killing a vampire, like driving a stake through its heart. Um, and then when Scully shows up, right, like a couple of seconds later, she's like, "What's that?" And he looks and he takes out the fake teeth, the fake vampire teeth, like the Halloween things of the kid he just murdered. He's like, "Ah, shit."
Arr.
So yeah, a really funny episode. The show has a really great attention to detail with its continuity. Like in one of the early season one episodes, there's a character with his own organization, like NICAP, and he has a hat with those letters on it. He gets abducted, and in later episodes, you see the NICAP hat in Mulder's office. Just like a nice little touch, like that pays homage to the lore. But then there's also stuff like Scully has a standalone episode in like season 3 or 4 where she gets a tattoo with this guy. But I don't like. I've been looking out for it ever since. And granted, you don't really see the back of Scully's back often, but I don't think she still has the tattoo. So that's another thing where it's like,
Hmm.
did that entire episode actually happen, or was it more metaphorical? How are we doing on time? I have like 2 or 3 more points. Yeah, I can run through these. How are you doing? Any questions at all? Any comments?
So far, nothing. I'm liking the passion. Is that it? The more you say, the more I'm like, I need to watch this.
That's why I wanted to watch the at least the first episode with you, because it I say this to anyone, if you're on the fence about checking it out, watch the first episode. I was hooked uh from the first episode. I think my favorite scene was uh do I want to tell you what this, I mean, we're already in spoilers for the entire episode, so sure. Um
Go for it.
they realize that they're missing time. One of the telltale signs of an alien abduction is like missing time. If you can't remember a few minutes, um, anyway, they're driving down the road, and Mulder notices that the clock jumped up a few minutes unexplainably, and it's raining. So they get out of the car. They're yelling at each other. It's in the rain. It's great set of shots, great character moments, and from that point on, I'm like, yeah, this is a great show. Speaking of great shows and showrunners, Chris Carter is the creator of this show. But starting in season 5, I noticed that there's a certain someone who's added as a supervising producer in the credits, and that is Vince Gillian. You know who Vince Gillian is, right?
Hmm.
He
I'm
is
drawing a
the
blank. Remind me. Help.
he's the creator of Breaking Bad.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. Ms. Microphone was just finishing that up, actually.
Oh, nice. We should have her on
Yeah,
for that episode whenever we get
we
to it.
should.
Um, but yeah, I noticed that he is a supervising producer on the show, and then I've noticed his name starting to come up in the writing credits. And then in season 5, he's in season 6, he's promoted to executive co-producer, or co-executive producer. Is that what it is? Supervising producer, co-executive, yeah, co-executive producer, I think. So it's like this guy, this talented son of a bitch, like, like I hate him because he's so good, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because this show has a ton of guest stars. You have Jack Black, Ryan Reynolds, who was only in a cold open and wasn't technically credited in the guest stars section. Veronica Cartwright, like I mentioned, Luke Wilson, Bruce Campbell, Titus Welliver. Um, but then in some of Vince's episodes, you see Bryan Cranston, and you see the guy who played Jimmy's brother in Better Call Saul. So it's like you can definitely tell they're starting to put the threads together and starting to think about Breaking Bad a little bit. You see where the team's starting to assemble here, which I think is hilarious. But speaking of guest stars, the weirdest guest star I've seen is Terry O'Quinn. He shows up in a season 2 episode where he plays a police officer or a police captain, and he's kind of the pseudo antagonist where he doesn't want the truth to come out because he's having an affair with one of his police officers. But Terry O'Quinn is John Locke on Lost. So, big name.
Why does every show lead back to Lost?
It does. Like, I'm going to, before we do our Lost episode, I'm going to put it in a compilation of every time I mention Lost. And it's going to be 10 minutes long. um, but he was fine in the episode. It was a one off. Nothing else came of it. And then the movie happened. You have the opening scene, and then after the titles, an FBI agent steps out of a helicopter, and it's Terry O'Quinn. So I get to Googling, like, hold up. Did this guy get promoted and shifted over to the FBI in less than like 2 years? Like, what's going on? No, he just plays a different character for no reason at all. And the funniest thing is, this head FBI guy, they're in this building in Dallas because they think there's a bomb threat. Eventually, Mulder finds the bomb in a vending machine, and John Locke's like, "Don't worry, I got this." Sends everyone else out of the building, and you see the time click count down, and he's just sitting there with his head in his hands, like, "Okay." Doesn't even try to defuse it because I guess he's part of the conspiracy and he has to cover stuff up, but he gets blown up. Um, and the funniest thing is, he's not finished guest starring. Like, I looked it up, and he has like 2 or 3 more roles on this show, which is so funny to me. Like, I think he's part of one of the spin-offs, Millennium. Have you heard of that show?
I have not.
Okay, I think it stars Lance Henriksen, and I know Terry O'Quinn is in it at some point. Um, I don't think that was supposed to be a tie-in to X-Files. I don't think it's ever officially confirmed until X-Files does its tie-in episode with that show. Um, so it's not essential viewing to the X-Files franchise, but it sounds interesting, and I'm hoping I can check it out before we do the next one about the remainder of the show. Um, the only other thing I have on my list, it's a really big gripe with the show in its entirety, and that's the packaging for the Blu-ray box set. Have I told you
Oh, you
about
were telling
this?
me about
I
this.
was. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it really pisses me off. Look, it's 11 seasons, 218 discs. I get that the packaging is going to be big, but it's not big enough. It's about the width of about 2 iPhones lengthwise back to back. Um, but all the desks are stacked on top of each other, like 3 or 4 at a time, and you cannot get your fingers in there to safely take them out. Like, I feel like I'm gonna snap them every time I take a disc out. So what I did was I went on Amazon and I bought like 10 6 disc cases to transfer seasons over to, so I didn't have to deal with it.
There you go.
But that is everything on my list that I have. I could talk about more if you want me to, um, but we're already at near an hour, so I think this is a good place unless you have something else you want to touch
No, I think it's a pretty good spot.
on. All right. Actually, are there any, not necessarily related to X Files, but are there any conspiracies that you enjoy that you want to touch on?
Oh, I got so many. Well, when it comes to conspiracies, as you well know, I do have quite a few. One of my bigger conspiracies is that what year were we born? That's right, the 90s. Now, I think that boys specifically, but girls too, and other genders, if you
Oh,
want to throw
I
them in
know
there,
which
depending
one you're
on,
doing.
oh, you know what it is. So, there is a slew of media content from when we were young up until we were in about our, I would say, mid to late teens.
Yeah.
There were a lot of goth girl baddies. So
Mm-hmm.
many so, and they were always portrayed the same way in very similar in attitude, in behavioral, psychological meaning that I personally think that we as a generation were groomed into just liking goth girls. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's an interesting, and I don't think it's a conspiracy like they're trying to corrupt the youth. I think it was a study done to see how well and how vast media could be used to influence a generation's perceptions on things like beauty standards and because again the goth was more of a fringe thing. It wasn't your typical, wear high heels, be pretty, wear makeup. It was introducing boys and girls who were attracted, you get the idea. It was presenting a feminine figure that went against the stereotypical norms, and they used this as like a testing ground for how well this could outreach and captivate audiences of a certain demographic and how long that could be played for, because you don't see it so much anymore, at least not with new original content for um young for like you know 10-year-olds to young adults. You don't see like the super heavy gothic play up anymore. And I think it's because now it's become part of the zeitgeist and it's so common that now they're trying new stuff.
Yeah, I do have to disagree with you at one part. I do think it's a bad thing, um, because the government then decided to take away the supply of goth girls. They took away the natural habitat. They closed down all the malls, right? Um, so the
I
demand.
blame I blame Jeff Bezos for that.
Okay, sure, I'm fine with that. Actually, yeah, no, you're right. Amazon. Um,
Mhm.
the demand for these goths are so high, yet the supply
Mhm.
is scarce.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it's we need forget about stimulus checks. We need government mandated goth girlfriends. Like,
It's got to be done.
if that was Biden's promise in the election, they never would have made him retire. Just
No,
saying.
he listen. If if Emperor Trunt wants to turn around his polling numbers, just promise goth mommy girlfriends. That's how you win. That's how you win the left. That's how you win the right. It's how you win everybody in the middle. It's a uniting factor for our generation.
It would be huge.
And yet, they're scared of our power.
What power are you talking about?
The power that our generation holds, but how easy we are to
Ah,
manipulate.
yeah. I'm gonna cut the episode here because we could get pretty radical pretty fast,
The
especially when goths are on the line. All right.
Mulan song in the background, Girl Worth Fighting For, comes into play.
Before we do the outro, I do want to give a hint for next week's episode, something to try out here. Uh, the hint is that it stars Peter Cullen. So, if you have an idea of what next week's episode is going to be focusing on, go ahead and drop that down in the comments of the episode. If you're on Spotify, I still don't know if you can make comments on Spotify if there's a comment section.
Yes,
You've told me that 3 times, and I'm gonna forget again.
I have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have a guess. I'm not going to say it here.
Oh! I thought you meant to make me remember. I'm like, what is it? Give me a back tattoo of it, so that way I can think it's there and forget about it every time the shot demands it for X Files. All right, long-winded joke. That's not gonna hit at all. Um, but with that, thank you for sticking with us here for this spooky episode of the Two Raccoons in a Trench Coat podcast. I've been your host, some guy with the hat, and I just want to reiterate that Mulder and Scully's dynamics are amazing. I can't do it justice. Um, so I do recommend you checking out the show, at least that first episode, if any of what I've said here is interesting, even though I'm pretty sure I did just spoil like literally everything that happens for the first half of this. So maybe I should have said that at the beginning.
They know by now. Where our podcast is the spoiler bait.
And with that, thank you once again, everyone, for joining us for the Two Raccoons in a Trench Coat podcast, your podcast for classy news tonight. Thanks, and have a good one.
Remember, the truth is out there.